Hello friends, welcome to my channel. I am Akhilesh Jha. Please share and subscribe my channel AJIS Academy Indore on YouTube. Friends, today's topic is economic growth is not enough in India. My lesson plan includes why it is in the news, what is gross domestic product, that is GDP, limitations of GDP, the alternative methods of calculating the economic performance and social well-being of an economy, and finally conclusion. Friends, as you know that the International Monetary Fund predicted that India is going to ease past Japan and will become the fourth largest economy in nominal GDP terms by the end of 2025. Thus, after the USA, China and Germany, India will be the fourth largest economy in the world. At present, the size of the economy of the US is 28 trillion, followed by China $18 trillion, Germany $4.5 trillion, and then India $4.19 trillion. So this is a remarkable achievement of India since independence. Friends, as you know that when India became independent, the size of its economy was only 33 billion American dollar. Although absolute gross domestic product is essential to understand the size of the economy, yet they do not point out as to how the wealth has been distributed among its population, how much the country is developed, how much its people are enjoying the prosperity. Thus, it masks the cost of living, income inequality, and disparities in population size. Friends, a country may have big economy, but it is not necessary that its population may have been enjoying lives of prosperity. Now, the question is, what is gross domestic product? I mean GDP. Friends, it measures the sum total of economic activity of a country within its border within a span of 1 year. It is the measurement of monetary value of goods and services within the border of a country. It includes the value of production without deducting depreciation. Also, it excludes the earning from its residents living in abroad. So there is a difference between GDP and net national income, whereby net national income measures an economy by adding GDP with the net national income from abroad, that is the total earning from its citizens living in abroad minus the payment given to foreign residents living in India. It also subtracts the depreciation from GDP. This would be the net national income of a country. Friends, as you know that there are three methods by which GDP is measured. These are production-based measures, income-based measures, and expenditure-based measures. So, in the production-based measure, the GDP is counted equal to sigma gross value added plus taxes on products minus subsidies. Gross value added is derived from production of goods and services in a particular sector minus intermediate consumption of raw materials, energy and services. According to the income approach of GDP, the formula is compensation of employees plus gross operating surplus plus gross mixed income plus taxes on production and imports minus subsidies. Compensation of employees include wages, salaries and benefits given to employees, including social contributions like pensions. Gross operating surplus includes profit earned by businesses, including corporate profits, appreciation and net interest. Gross mixed income means the income earned by people working in informal sectors. Again, taxes on imports and production like GST or sale tax, and finally subsidies provided by government to lower the production. The expenditure based GDP is equal to consumption plus investment plus government spending plus export minus imports, whereby consumption means the total consumption on goods and services by households on food, clothing and healthcare. Investment means investment by businesses on inventories, machines, equipments, buildings, and investment in residential properties by individuals or households. Government spending means the expenditure incurred by government on infrastructure, building, defense, on purchasing defense equipments, public services, excluding transfer of payments like pensions or interests. And finally, the net export. It means the total volume of exports minus the total volume of imports. It may be negative or it may be positive. When a country imports more than it exports, the value would be in negative. And so the sum total of consumption plus investment plus government spending and the net exports is called GDP by expenditure method. Now, friends, as you know that there are certain limitations upon gross domestic product. These are following. GDP measures the total output of an economy, but it doesn't reflect how the wealth has been distributed, what is the per capita income of the people, how the increase in GDP has an impact upon the increase in the per capita income. For example, since 2000, India's GDP has grown by leaps and bounds and even is going to surpass Japan by the end of 2025. But when compared to per capita income, the per capita of India is 12 times lower than that of Japan. Similarly, the economy, the GDP of Poland is 4 times lower than that of India in 2023. But when compared with per capita income, it is 9 times greater than that of India. Similarly, gross domestic product doesn't capture the non-economic factors like health, education, life expectancy and happiness. For example, the gross enrollment ratio in colleges in India in 2022 was 32.7% against 65% in Japan and 75% in Poland. Thus, gross domestic product doesn't reflect the status of health infrastructure in a particular economy. The infant mortality rate in India in 2022-23 was 28 per 1000 and maternal mortality rate was 97 per lakh. But when you compare with Japan, what do you find? Infant mortality rate in Japan was 1.7 and maternal mortality rate was only 5 per 1 lakh. Again, life expectancy at birth in India was 72 years in 2023 compared with China 78.2 years, 83.6 years in South Korea, 84 years in Japan, 78.5 years in Poland. Again, GDP also doesn't take into account the employment opportunities available in different sectors in the economy. For example, in India, 45% of the people are still living on agriculture. That is, their main source of livelihood is agriculture. While in Japan and Poland, the main source of livelihood on agriculture is below 10% for Japanese and Polish people. Only 23.9% people are employed in formal sectors of the Indian economy against 90% in Japan and 80.1% in Poland. GDP also doesn't take into account the non-market activities like household works or voluntary services. It also doesn't take into account the environmental degradation or resource depletion. A country may boost up its GDP by exhausting its natural resources or deforestation or proliferation of timber industries. But in the long run, the deforestation or environmental degradation or pollution on account of big factories emitting huge amount of carbon dioxide may endanger its economy and may cause irreparable loss. Similarly, GDP only talks about investment, but it doesn't take into account the quality of life. It also doesn't talk about depreciation or the consumption of capital. Again, one of the biggest drawbacks of GDP is that it doesn't take into account the regional variations within a country. For example, the per capita income or the economic growth of Bihar is far lagging behind developed states of Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu. Virtually, the per capita income of Goa is 10 times greater than that of Bihar. Last but not the least, GDP takes into account current production and consumption without considering the long-term consequences of debt accumulation or unsustainable growth pattern. For example, in 2014, the debt burden of India was 55 lakh crore rupees, which increased to 181 lakh crore rupees in 2024. Friends, that's why economists have invented various alternative methods to calculate or measure the economy of a country. These methods are gross progress indicator, whereby GDP is added with value of non-market activities minus cost of negative externalities like environmental degradation or pollution. The second kind of measurement is gross national income, whereby GDP is added with the net income from the abroad. Net national income is derived from deducting depreciation from gross national income. However, these methods also suffer from certain limitations because these methods also do not take into account non-market activities or benefits and environmental degradation. An important measurement of the health of an economy of a country is now Human Development Index, and this index is derived by cube root over life expectancy index multiplied by education index multiplied by income index. As of now, according to UNDP, the HDI of India is 0.685. Friends, as you know that HDI is calculated between 0 to 1 in the ascending order. The country which has more points in the ascending order is construed as more developed countries. For example, countries having more than 0.8.5 SDI is considered to be a developed country. The SDI of India is 0.685 against Japan's and Poland, which crossed 0.9 mark, signaling the status of the developed countries. However, an important drawback of SDI is that it doesn't take into account the inequality of income and wealth. And secondly, it also doesn't look into the environmental degradation and consequent cost to posterity. Friends, now I come to the conclusion. If India wants to achieve the status of SDI of China, which has SDI of 0.788 in 1923, it must work on three important sectors like health, education and income augmentation, so that a standard of living of the people must be enhanced. India must strive for universal health insurance by giving 100% coverage to its population by the Ayushman Bharat policy. It must increase 2% expenditure on health to at least to 6% to align with China's expenditure of 6% of its GDP. India must strive for expanding the midday meal program so that it must combat malnutrition among children. As you know that at least 20% of the infant mortality is caused due to malnutrition. Similarly, India must increase the mean year of schooling and expected year of schooling. When compared with China, South Korea and Japan, the mean year of schooling and expected year of schooling is very low in India. So there is need for universalization of secondary education, reduction in dropouts among tribals and girl students. There is need to increase more schools in remote and tribal areas so that maximum students can be brought for schooling. The standard of people can be increased by increasing the per capita income in purchasing power parity terms. Friends, as you know that the contribution of manufacturing in our GDP is, as of now, is only 16%. It must be increased to 28% like China. There must be focus upon export-oriented growth. Emphasis should be upon the exports of electronics and value-added goods. Manufacturing sector has the huge capacity to absorb the unemployed and underemployed youths in agriculture. There is also need to bridge the gap between the development of rural and urban areas by investing in infrastructure, electricity, generation, irrigation and farming, so that the income of farmers are doubled within 2 to 3 years or by 2030. In order to reduce the inequality in income or wealth, the government must impose progressive taxation upon billionaires and increasing the wages of workers, so that it would be helpful in raising the standard of living of people below 20% of our population by providing them with durable assets like affordable housing and gainful employment. To sum up, the SDI of India can be enhanced at par with China through universal healthcare and universalization of education, and particularly secondary education, reduction in dropouts among tribals, providing sanitation and clean water, boosting industrial growth, job creation and employment opportunities. More emphasis should be given on research and development, artificial intelligence, robotics, space, defense production, quantum technology, cryptic and bioengineering to reap the maximum benefits, so that gross national income per capita is further enhanced. So friends, now I conclude my lecture. If you have any suggestion, please write me. I will be very much thankful to you. Thank you very much.